Greenland, the largest and northernmost island in the world. The entire northeastern part of Greenland is also the world's largest national park. Mara Boland and I are flying to the north coast of Greenland to meet a team of explorers and together search for a new northernmost point of land in the world, an Ultima Thule. Our first destination is Danneborg, home of the Danish Army's 12-man sled patrol, Sirius. The man with the book is Hauke Andersen. He is the Danish Polar Center's coordinator of the expeditions to the national park. The other men are visitors to Danneborg. Only 27 men live in this enormous territory on a year-round basis, and they have to be tough. In a few moments we'll meet some of the Sirius patrol members when we land in Danneborg. They travel 2,500 miles every year on their skis and with their dog sleds. The sled patrolmen love their dogs. Their very lives depend on their strength and endurance. And we could see that the dogs have been treated with kindness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice shape. They like back rubs too.
Yes, what can I say about this sled? It weighs about 145 to 170 pounds when it's finished, and it would last for 2 years. We built the sled ourselves from the bottom up. It takes a sled team of 2 men 1 week to build it with boards and waterproof plywood. When it's finished on Saturday afternoon, it is baptized with a small drink and its name is revealed. Depending on the sled team's assignment, the sled will travel 1,800 to 2,500 miles in a year. After about 5,000 miles, the sled is worn out and one builds a new one. A sled team is made out of 2 men who serve for 2 years. Their service time overlap 1 year, so the older, experienced and trained patrol member will teach his younger partner how to build a sled.
Så hver andet år så bygger slædeholdet en ny slæde, således at den bliver overdraget af ældsemanden, og så fortæller han, hvordan slæden skal bygges.
Here rests the only Danish casualty to military conflict in Greenland.
The patrol didn't really exist at the start, but there was a group of Danish hunters up here, Danish and Norwegian hunters, and during the Second World War, the Danish consul, I think it was in New York, he claimed to be autonomous to the Danish government and wouldn't accept to take orders from the government. And then he established the military unit as it is known today as Slædepatruljen Sirius. And he used people who were not really soldiers. None of them had any military experience, but he gave them ranks and so on. And the senior most hunter up here, then he was ranked as a lieutenant, and the others as sergeants and corporals and so forth. And then they realized that the Germans established weather stations up here from a point of view that if you knew the weather in Greenland, then you are pretty certain what the weather's going to be like in Europe, England and Britain within the next few days, 3 days or so. So when the Germans started establishing these weather stations around the area, they were eventually discovered by these sledge patrols, the first members. And one of them, Eli Knudsen, he came upon the tracks of these guys. They were only skiing. They didn't have any dogs, and if they had dogs, they wouldn't know how to use them. So he came upon these ski tracks and followed them to a hut here in the area, and was surprised that to see that it was Germans, and he got hailed by the Germans, who tried to run away, but he was gunned down by machine gun fire, and he was the first casualty of the war.
How do these men cope with a wilderness so different from the Danish countryside?
Did you have somebody teach you how to do everything?
Well, you get some training before you actually go to Sirius, but a lot of it is with the way that Sirius is constructed. Every task is dissected out in two-man teams. So you've got one chap who's doing his second year, and a chap who's doing his first year. So the old man, the old experienced chap, will teach the young guy everything he knows and how to do things, all the work practices are normally dealt with, and that way you pass on the experience from old guy to new guy.
Did you ever have any close calls in terms of something really could have gone wrong?
Well, it happens now and again, not that often, luckily enough, but I remember one episode. It was up in the northern part of Greenland, and it was in midwinter, in the cold period of time, and we were trying to get to a depot, to a hut, and we were in the middle of a snowstorm, so we couldn't really see anything. So we took turns walking in front of the dogs with the compass, to follow the compass. It was totally white out and stormy, so we couldn't see anything. So you just walk there, look at your compass all the time, because that's the only way you can keep a straight course. And at some point I stopped and looked back, and the sledge was gone. So I stood there for about 5 minutes in the middle of this snowstorm, with nothing else but what I had in my pockets. And of course that wouldn't have been too great.
Yeah,
but
if you didn't find the sled again, you would have been dead, right?
Yeah, well, I could have ducked myself down in a snowdrift somewhere, but it would have been pretty extreme. We do have space blankets and stuff to wrap yourself in, but it would have been a close call. But then suddenly, out of the midst of all this white, my lead dog Dawson came out, and it was probably, I've never been so happy to see him before. And we then subsequently went and found the hut and stayed there for 8 more days while the weather was absolutely horrible and windy and snowing. So 8 days would have been quite some time lying in the snowdrift somewhere. So
that would be probably more than most people could handle.
Yeah, that would probably be even more than I could handle. So I'm quite happy that the dogs found me.
Right.
I think they might have caught my smell basically and found me. So that was maybe a close call.
And so your partner, he was looking for you at that point?
Not really, because it's difficult in the snowstorm, so I don't think he'd really realised that we got separated.
You were in trouble.
Yeah, and obviously it was my fault. I should make sure that I always got contact back to him and to the dogs. But in the snowstorm, it was very uneven ice conditions, so these things happen.
Right.
The captain is our good friend Johan Skirnissen. Our next stop is Danmarkshavn, a small weather station with 9 men. We are bringing them 2 retired sled dogs for companionship. The land below us has an awesome beauty. It is constantly changing. It's a short stop, so we rush to see a small historical landmark. The sign says Denmark's Memorial.
This is the expedition house for the Denmark expedition in 1906. It's the most extraordinary expedition the Danes ever did up here. Their leaders, Miles Eriksen, Høgh Hagen and Jørgen Brøndlund, both lost their lives up north. Coming back, they didn't make it before the winter set in and they died, but this is a little expedition house for all the men who came up here and anchored up out in the bay here.
We have landed above the 83rd latitude on the shores of the Arctic Ocean at Bliss Bay. First, we have to unload the plane and establish a small fuel depot for a future trip.
That's 55 kilos.
Jesus. Well, that's not as much as my pack.
It could be risky to land and take off from the tundra, so I helped make a few repairs to the landing sites before the plane leaves us. We are now the northernmost campus in the world, and there's no night up here. The sun just makes a large circle in the sky above our heads. There are signs of pink-footed geese that nest here and later migrate to Europe during the fall.
So we have found where the muskox have been shedding. We're still looking for the muskox though. But we found this beautiful grazing land here. And we see fresh droppings over there.
The muskox are truly prehistoric looking animals. And this little Arctic fox, it's a white fox and it's the first one we saw in that color. All the other ones were gray. He's about a quarter mile away and I can't keep my camera still. But there are many wonderful flowers here. Life is so precious here on the edge of the world. Even butterflies can live 400 miles from the North Pole. Mara is hiking on the mountain we named after her in 1996. I remember the photographer Galen Rowell. This muskog skull was his favorite subject when we were here in 1996. And nothing has changed in the years in between. This is Galen back then. He had more beautiful adventures than any man I ever knew, and he truly understood the mystic unity we have in nature.
This is just so beautiful. Where this muskox has perished, it will give food for hundreds of years. It's a real example where death, there is life.
I've always wondered what the northernmost land on Earth would be like. There's a lot of contrast up here. Flowers, animals, lots of wonderful mountains and rivers. And out somewhere behind me is the Ultima Thule, the northernmost point of land on Earth. The Greek explorer Pytheas was the first to claim he had discovered the northernmost land in the world. But his records were lost. And since then, new discoveries have moved Ultima Thule farther and farther north. And the mystery is still with us. It's out there somewhere.
And we hope tomorrow to cross the ice to get to some islands that no one has been to before. And we hope to get back safely, more or less.
You
More.
know the most islands in the world?
More.
Great.
More than more or less.
Unless they find more.
Okay.
And we could even...
So what we're trying to do is follow up on the expeditions we've done from here before and see if we can learn something more about the islands and perhaps find some new islands. And that's what we're going to do for the next few days. We have good weather and everything seems propitious for some success here. We hope we have all the equipment we need. We're using inflatables and we have some waders, chest waders with us, so we're better equipped this time than before.
We camp on the coast south of Kaffeklubben Island. And first we are going to check out if we can negotiate the sea ice. Side of Odak, if you look at the straight line along the shore, it's sort of onto that side. But what I remember, what we went up to in '96 was up here.
Right. Okay, hold on. 30, 38, 67.
So first we start wading across, and it should be very shallow in here. Across here, we can step on the ice, I believe.
out from this little very flat island.
We made it out to the sea ice after wading through shallow water for about 300 yards. Unfortunately, I fell in the water and I'm awfully cold now. However, the conditions are wonderful, so we have decided to go all the way.
So now we are working ourselves toward Kaffeklub. It's pretty slow going because there are a lot of deep pools on the ice and we had to wade through them in our waders, and it's very slippery on the bottom, and we didn't quite anticipate these conditions, but we are making progress slowly. And behind me you see Kaffeklub, which is about 1.5 miles long, and somewhere north of there is the Ultima Thule.
The ice is beautiful. It's even better with Orvis waders. I hope Orvis will pay me for this.
Well, what rending is this? But it's like a fantasy, really. It's surrealistic. Yeah, it's beautiful. Just absolutely spectacular. It just doesn't seem real. You know, when you put your foot down, it's like walking on
Those
water.
holes, the round holes, those perfectly round holes. You can see.
Wonderful.
The beautiful turquoise color and crystal clear.
There's Dennis.
Yeah, I was just checking on that just now. It went up and then down there.
Back in 1978, it was discovered that this island was really further north than Cape Morse Jesup. And a Danish team of surveyors came here to make the measures, do all the correct measures. And they discovered another small island north of Kaffeklub. And that island was called Boland. So in 1996, I went with Dennis and some other people up here to find Boland. And by pure accident, we found the northernmost island. And later we discovered that there are probably several others hidden in the sea ice. And right now we are just trying to check it out. Perhaps we can see them.
From the northern tip of Kaffeklub Island, we enter the sea ice once more. Hour after hour, we wade through hundreds of meltwater pools that have formed on the ice. Since we had a change of plans, we don't all have the right equipment. And should someone fall into the ice water this far from camp, they might get hypothermia and die. I'm also pretty miserable because I don't even have a pack and I'm carrying all this camera equipment. And I'm teeter-tottering every time I walk on the uneven bottom of the pools. Mara claims that she can see greenery here and there. I think she's hallucinating. But another expedition member, Hans, said that she saw it too. We are getting tired and we are seeing islands everywhere, but they are just shadows on the ice. But all of a sudden, Mar and I spot something that had to be an island, and there it is. It is a great moment for all of us. We have had success beyond our wildest fantasies.
After 12 long hours of climbing through pools of ice water and broken up ice, we finally made it.
So we finally found the most northern piece of land after hours and hours of going through the most beautiful, I must say, northern sea ice. And it's been a spectacular experience, and here we are.
Hey, I'm sitting here enjoying 6 wonderful people, including myself, on top of the world on the northernmost island in the world. Words can't describe how beautiful it is here. All day it's been a continuous high. So we're going to enjoy an hour here and try not to steal all the rock.
After 10 days, our plane comes back to pick us up, and we fly out to take a look at our new discovery. There, Kaffeklubben Island is coming into view. It was first discovered in 1921, but not visited by anybody until 1968. Even in this harsh place, flowers can grow. I have picked purple sassafras and Arctic poppies right on the northern tip of the island. And there, that black spot is the island we discovered in 1996. Here, the new Ultima Thule, miles north of anything else. I have a few rocks from that island in my pocket, and I know I left a piece of my soul down there. Now it's time to return home. We are flying over the mighty Benedict Mountains. Only a few people have ever set foot down there. And we already miss the country, but we know we have had a glorious experience.